A very good evening to our viewers. Thank you for joining us tonight on the agenda. My name is Taiwo Njabela. Tonight on the platform, we are welcoming the CEO of the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board, NIPDB, that is Nangula Uaandja, who is also the chairperson of, of that organization. Thank you, Nangula, for for coming to the platform. Maybe the first question really is this thing of you are the CEO, you are the chairperson of the same organization. Governance-wise, how is that constructed?
Good evening, Toivo. It's great to be here with you. It's a very good question indeed, because you can see that in many organizations, we have got a split between the role of chairperson and CEO. And it is indeed good governance. And we say that good governance can be at extreme. You can have governance that is here almost like at 0%, and you do not have good policy structures and so on. And you have got excessive governance that can be an hindrance to performance. So when the president, the late Hage Geingob, was setting up this institution, there's a few calls he needed to make. And you know that he had that place where he appointed the high-level panel on the Namibian economy on 2019. And he needed to do a few things. And I think he said in his second term, he needs certain actions to take place. So now he said he needed to establish this institution, and two of the decisions he made was, number one, how does he establish this institution? Is it through an act of parliament? That's one. Number two, of course, what governance structure will he put in place? But then I think he considered that the urgency with which he expected this institution to perform, he said that of course he will have governance and there will be reporting structures and so on, but going through an act of parliament, by the time the act happens, 3 years will be over. Putting there a structure of chairperson, board, good governance, corporate governance and so on, taking some actions will take time. And therefore, of course, good governance is also something which you do with time. Institutions start at governance here, and as you grow, you improve in good governance. So in order to make sure that we delivered with agility and fast speed and so forth, he decided, let us set up a structure which is a Section 21 company. Let us have an advisory board at this stage. But of course, that is something that he saw both being reviewed over time as the institution matured. And of course, the institution is now more than 3 years. And I'm sure that as the institution matures, the president will now relook at the structure and say, we have now matured, we have now put institution systems and processes. Are we still fit for purpose in terms of the governance structure? So that is really where it came from, and that is where we are. And
when in terms of accountability, who do you account to in a structure like that?
Okay, so in terms of accountability, I account to the president. So I am somebody who is appointed by the president, and I account to the president. As an institution which is a public entity, we also report in terms of PEGA. And in terms of PEGA, we have got a minister who's in the presidency, where we report to the minister in the presidency. And then, of course, our finances comes through State House. So when funds are allocated to NIPDB, they go to State House, and State House allocates an amount to us as if we are part of the budgetary allocation. And therefore, every year we issue financial statements. The advisory board members approve the financial statements. They report to the president, and of course, we also report to the office of the president, and that goes through to parliament.
Okay. How do you make sure that, in terms of sustainability, not only for jobs, in terms of those of you that work at the board, but also the sustainability of the mandate that you have? How do you plan in the long term in the absence of an act? Because an act of parliament at least sort of assures you that we are an established entity of an act of parliament, and therefore, there's some sort of long-term sustainability. Because the fear is that if a new president comes in, maybe if he's a swapper president, it's easier to carry on, the legacy continues. But if another person comes in and maybe they don't really have faith, they have a different vision, they could simply, what is the English word? Dissolve the board. Is it not better to have an act that speaks to your mandate?
Yes. No, of course, it is better and it is best to have an act that speaks to the mandate. But I think, of course, again, starting where we were, it's like, okay, do you spend time creating that act, or do you establish an institution and then start putting the act in place? And I think the president chose the latter, which is then establish the institution and start working on the act. And that's why you may have heard about the Namibia Investment Promotion and Facilitation Act. Of course, previously it was referred to as the Namibia Investment Promotion Act, and it is replacing the Foreign Investment Act of 1990. So that is the one that is in process, and that is the one that the discussion has been in place for the NIPDB to be an institution that is now established in that act, and that act is in process. Yes, of course, in the interim, until it is pronounced in, until it is established and until it is promulgated by Parliament, we are a Section 21 company, which is, of course, recognized in terms of PEGA, which is the Public Enterprises Governance Act. But yes, there's nothing that can prevent somebody who comes back and said, okay, remove this institution. But I do, yes, the Act of Parliament protects you, but if any president comes and feel like this institution is not necessary, they can also take any institution that is in Parliament and change that act and bring that act to the to Parliament and also replace the institution. So I don't think being in an Act of Parliament gives you guarantee. What gives you guarantee is, what is your mandate? Are you performing in that mandate? Are you adding value to the economy in that mandate? And are you delivering and supporting the president or whoever is in office to respond to the challenges that are facing the country, whether it is income inequalities, unemployment, and poverty? And that is what is important. And therefore, where we are is really looking at it. There's a question that I normally ask our people to ask ourselves. Why should we continue to exist? You need to ask yourself that question. And I think as an institution, you cannot say, oh, we continue to exist because the Act of Parliament says so. You must continue to exist because you are relevant and you are addressing the challenges that is facing the country. And that is what we are focusing. We are focusing on addressing the challenges that are facing the country. And as we respond to that challenges, we believe that any leader who is in that position, who we are supporting in delivering on their mandate to the people, will keep us in office.
You spoke about delivering on the mandate, delivering on what is expected of you, on the purpose for which you were created. How are you doing in that regard?
I believe that we are doing quite well. Okay. And when I say we are doing quite well, yes, I can make a list of a few things that they, like, let's say the president listed 8 things for which we must do, but what was important is the name. He called the name Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board. And when he read it, he mentioned specifically 2 things. He said that as a government or as a country, we need to develop. And yes, development and especially growing the economy, which was going down from about 2015 to about 2019, why he appointed the high-level panel on the Namibian economy, was because the economy was struggling, the investments were going down, capital was leaving the country instead of coming into the country, and economic growth was going down. And the president said, of course, there's a formula on how can you grow the economy. You can continue to spend as a government, there can be consumer spending, but the challenge that we had was consumer spending was not there because many people are not employed. The government spending was not there because you remember that years when we were going through fiscal consolidation. And of course, the other levers that you could pull was then the investment. And the president thought we then need to leverage investment. We need to attract investors. We need to have a good environmentally friendly environment so that capital is no longer fleeing Namibia, but that capital is coming into Namibia. That is one. The second one is we need to support MSMEs across all the levers of the economy. Now, if you ask me, how are we doing? We believe that the investment climate of Namibia has improved since we have been in office. And I don't need Nangula to say that one. I normally say, please go to the Bank of Namibia, ask them their data, of capital fleeing Namibia and capital coming into Namibia. And those figures have changed significantly. So we say just last year, which is 2023, capital that came into Namibia was about 40-something billion Namibian dollars. In the last 3 years that we have been in office, capital that came into Namibia was more than 70 billion Namibian dollars. Yes, we know that we are saying that there is a lot of that relate to oil and gas, which is about plus minus 33 billion Namibian dollars. That still give you 46 billion dollars. Yes, there is something that they say a huge transaction like Heineken that is $16 billion. There is still other money that came through. And if you take the amount that came over the last 3 years, you even take out the oil and gas, is more than the 10 years before that. So now please do not tell me that the environment has not changed. In addition to that, when we look at what we call private account activity, which include investment into portfolios and local citizens investing in the economy, the account activity has increased, and it is at the levels of about 13 to 14% of GDP, when the previous few years it was low. So I believe that we are delivering on that mandate. We are seeing queries of many people that are coming to Namibia. Those queries are what we record in what we call our pipeline of investment. Of course, first somebody comes in as a query. If it's a query that we believe that it does not have significant substance, we keep it as a query. The moment we have worked on this, the substance, and we think that there is something in there, we record it in the pipeline. And those queries that are coming through of projects that are asking us to support them, it's about 170 billion Namibian dollars. And then the last part of that one is projects that we are now saying are groundbreaking. And what you will hear maybe, and you speak to most of the investors that come to our office in the one-stop center, they will tell you previously one of the challenges that we have is because you have got how many government agencies, and one investor will go to many government agencies, and maybe the letter is received, maybe the letter is not received, 5 months later they get an answer, but now they come to NIPDB. We work with our colleagues in government, we follow up with our colleagues in government so that business people will focus on making profit and driving their business, and we will work with our colleagues in government to say, there is a query from an investor, can we answer this query sooner than later, so that we can make sure that this project is implemented, and as it is implemented, it creates the jobs that our people need. And I think we have been successful in that regard.
Yeah. When you speak, Nangula, about the value of investment that comes in, where do you draw the line between those that have been directly facilitated by the board and one that I suppose comes directly between two parties? If a bank is setting up in Namibia, or maybe a subsidiary of the existing banks in the country, you are FNB, there's in South Africa maybe there's a subsidiary of FNB, and you want to expand that to Namibia. How do you measure what came in the country through you, through your efforts? And I mean the Heineken situation, for example, because people are saying, but the board is taking credit for things that are not theirs. How do you respond to that?
It is a very, very valid point. And I think the last thing we want is to take credit for something that we didn't do. And we are not taking credit for Heineken or something like that. But also, let us assume you have got a marketing department. When you have got a marketing department, it's difficult to say, oh, marketing department, you're responsible for this. So let us say, this is NIPDB, and what we do, we market Namibia. We go international and say, come to invest in Namibia. Now, everybody you tell to come and invest in Namibia, it's not that they will come to you and say, okay, I'm now coming to invest in Namibia. So you look at what capital is coming into Namibia. How is Namibia now known because of the effort of our marketing campaign? So anybody who does marketing is not you target and say, okay, this is one investor, this is another investor. And that's why we are looking at it and saying, how does the environment look? So we have not gone to market and tell, oh guys, this project came to Namibia because of us. And we are not going to that. We are saying that we have marketed Namibia, and the environment of Namibia is now attracting many people interested in investing in Namibia because of the effort that NIPDB plus many other people that are promoting Namibia are doing. And of course, you can now tell me, okay, will you really say that in the last 3 years that we have been in office, 73 billion came in, but how many years before that, not even half of the 40 billion came in, and tell me, no, it's coincidence. Maybe it is coincidence, but that's something you need to consider. That is number one. Number two, that you look at it. So one person may come to you, but what we do is, it's not just about promoting and bringing an investor. It's also investors that come to us and ask for services that I call facilitation services. So somebody comes and say, okay, I'm now an investor. You and your investor have got a transaction, but now you need a lot of services from government agencies. And with that services that you require from government agencies, what NIPDB does, and this is what all investment promotion agencies in the world do, is instead of you, Toivo, and your partner going around asking government, knocking here, give us this one, we have got a team that is fast-tracking the delivery of that one. And because of that fast-tracking process, we are now able to make sure that investments happen. Let's look for the cases of, for example, oil and gas companies. So oil and gas companies, they were here. But, for example, one of the items that we found that they were telling us, to get a visa for them to do their drilling campaign takes very long. So they will drill and then they will stop because visas are not coming through. So what happens then is NIPDB and Home Affairs work together. And we go and then we tell Home Affairs, this is the impact of this. Can we work together to make sure that we fast track the delivery of this one so that the drilling campaign can be fast tracked? And then we solve that problem and then we work together and this happens. So that is how we work with other offices, ministries and agencies to make sure that, number one, we take the message, they come to Namibia. And when people come to Namibia, we work together to make sure that we have improved service delivery. But then, of course, there's other expectation. It's working about with the whole ecosystem, because when people come here, they want the cost of business to be low. So we need to work with various ministries. How do we make sure that we have got an incentive regime that is responsive to the needs of the investors? How do we work with everybody in the ecosystem that we are building the skills that is responding to investors? How do we make sure that we are working with everybody to make sure we identify constraints in infrastructure, constraints in other areas that we respond? So NIPDB is not just here to say, oh, go and get one investor here. NIPDB is here to work with everybody to make the Namibian ecosystem business friendly, investor friendly, and to make sure that we attract investors that are coming in. So our job then is not about get 1, 2, 3 investors. Our job is work on this ecosystem, and we do things like we call a productivity task force, where we bring the sector people together and we say, sector people, identify what are the challenges in your sector, why can you not produce more? Once they tell us those challenges, in that conversation that we are facilitating and attended by the public sector and the private sector, then we follow up with activities of responsible parties. So where I believe we have been very successful is, yes, promoting and taking the message of Namibia. People that did not know Namibia before know Namibia, and it is about coordinating the effort of government to provide services to the private sector. That, I believe, is our success. And then, of course, we have got the MSME mandate. And MSME mandate and others is really about how do we capacitate our MSMEs to make sure that we identify what are some of their challenges. Their challenges is about quality. It's about branding. It's about understanding finances. So how do we have programs that are responding to MSMEs? And then it's about market access. How do we have programs such as Meet the Buyer, where we will link our MSMEs to Pick and Pay and others in the ecosystem, where we are able to take them internationally and have them to promote their goods and services. So those are the activities. So we are focusing not on identifying 1, 2 projects, but on programs that will enable the ecosystem of Namibia to attract investment. But then when you say, okay, how do you measure success? Then, of course, is our environment today. Is it better for investors than it was yesterday? And that you look by the figures that are coming through in the pipeline, and you look at the figures that are coming through and reported by the Bank of Namibia. Yeah.
So that answer was so eloquent that it has invalidated one of the questions that I had here.
Okay.
And I think it's a question that a lot of people in the country have.
Yeah.
Because I had a question here about to what can you point me? I thought you could, for example, say, look at that manufacturing company.
Yeah.
We are the ones who brought it in.
Yeah.
But now listening to what you just said, it means that your role doesn't exactly work that way. To say you specifically bring companies in is to paint a picture, a glossy picture of Namibia, is to promote, is to market the country, and then whoever is interested in your message then follows the usual channels to get in here.
Exactly. But the second one that we can also do is, let's say you are a Namibian and you have got a project. And what we are seeing is, so let's talk about our pipeline of project. So what we are seeing, because our pipeline of project is people that are now responding to our message. Because we have gone out and we have met. So we meet, we make a call out there, and then people come. And when they come, some of them come to us, some of them come to you, because all of a sudden they've heard about Namibia. And that's why it is difficult to say, I brought you, because I might not say I brought you, but you actually heard about Namibia from our messages. And then I can say, I brought this one, but actually Toivo brought them and brought them to me, because Toivo is also a Namibian who is marketing Namibia. So for you to say, Nangula, spend time in the detail trying to attach this one, I think it is going to be something which is challenging, and therefore what we do then is, if we go for an event somewhere, what we do, we say, okay, when we go for an event, we look at investors and other people who are asking us questions, and we call that leads. So they ask us questions, and then we put them in the pipeline. So in the pipeline are people that have asked us questions, we put them in inquiry, and then in the pipeline. Others are people that you have referred to us, and we put them in inquiry. And yes, we are trying to sort out what was the source of this one, but they, again, some of them speak to you, some of them speak to me, some of them speak to other people. But what we are seeing in the pipeline, most of the projects in the pipeline are driven by non-Namibians. And that, of course, is a matter of concern, because it's like, why are we as Namibian not seeing our projects? Because what is the project in the pipeline? Somebody comes to Namibia, or somebody has heard about Namibia and said, wow, I think Namibia, looking at their ocean, this is there is salmon that is bred in Norway. And look at the climatic condition of there. It looks like Namibia has got that climatic condition. Therefore, I think I can actually do salmon in Namibia, salmon fishing in Namibia and breeding in Namibia. Somebody comes to Namibia, they start the salmon farming, and they come to us, we put their project in the pipeline. So the project in the pipeline is not project that NIPDB tags and gives to people, it's people coming with their project and we put it there. Now we are seeing that foreigners are seeing what Namibia is good for, and we are putting their projects there. Yes, we do have some projects by Namibians, but they are not that many. So what we are now doing is, how do we work, of course, with government to identify some projects, but also to understand our own ecosystem. So we have got a research and development team that we are now trying to capacitate so that they can do a bit more research, and we will then identify, for example, import and other areas, so that we can put together something we call propositioning and share it with Namibians, and also share it, of course, internationally, and say, here are opportunities, potential opportunities in Namibia for you to do business. Please look at which one might be of interest to you, and then once you take those ones, and then we can see how we can add them, of course, to the pipeline. But the person who's owning and developing that project will have to do a lot of work. Or if you take your own project as Toivo, and you want investors that you don't have, you can come to us and say, I've got this project, but I don't have money. Can you help me find investors or international partners that have got know-how? And we can go with you internationally and find investors for you.
Yeah. The final question before we go on a very short break, Nangula, is you spoke about an ecosystem that needs to be in existence for ease of trade, I suppose. Yeah. One of the things that have been that our country has been grappling with, and the board doesn't seem to have also succeeded at that, and you need to brief us why is it so difficult, is this idea of creating a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
system where instead of running to social security and home affairs and what, we sort of have a one-stop shop where I can just move from one desk to the other as an investor wanting to set up in Namibia to get all my certifications at once.
Yes.
What is happening in that regard?
So we do have a one-stop center created at the NIPDB. So at this stage, we have identified 9 public entities that are that are assigned to that one-stop center. Forgive me if I'm not able to name all of them. There is Home Affairs, there is Ministry of Mines and Energy, there is BIPA, there is NAMRA, there is NIDA, there is Agriculture, there is City of Windhoek, and maybe I'm forgetting 1 or 2. So the purpose of what we selected is really the people that we see are most highly in demand. Okay, there is Competition Commission. So the ones that are high in demand, those are the ones that we have put there. Yeah. So the challenge there is with many institutions now as we approach them, we have actually signed our memorandum of understanding with those institutions. Yeah. I think there is only 1 memorandum of understanding that is not signed. The other 8 are signed. And getting a person there, most of them are saying currently they are struggling with capacity, so they cannot designate a specific person to come and sit in the center, but they give us a focal person. And therefore what happens now is the person will still come to the one-stop center. When you come to the one-stop center, you interact with our team, you give us your request or the service that you want, and then we will be sending that request to the ministry. Environment is the ninth ministry that I was leaving out. So the one that is stationed there is Home Affairs. So Home Affairs, there is a counter at Home Affairs. So if an investor, of course, you first need to register with us. We've got a criteria of who that investor is. Once you are registered with us, then you are serviced at that one-stop center. You may have seen that last week we signed an agreement with NAMRA. NAMRA saying come 1 October, their person will be sitting there. Ministry of Mines and Energy, they already have got their persons who are assigned coming and taking turns. Competition Commission and BIPA, we are working with focal people who are facilitating and fast-tracking our processes. So we are definitely making progress in that regard.
Okay, wonderful. We'll go for a quick break, but the next question that I'm going to ask Nangula Uaandja when we come back is about the Desert Visa Program, which according to media reports is aimed at attracting foreign money to boost Namibia's economic development, and there seems to be some very good incentives for foreigners, and Namibians are saying, you are selling off our country. She'll respond when we come back.
E-Ticket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.na. E-Ticket, your online ticket solution for events and event marketing, bringing you ease of mind and making sure that your event gets out there. For more information, contact events@nmh.com.
our conversation with Nangula Uaandja continues. Now, Nangula, the topic that has caused a lot of debate is this report in the media that the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board has urged the government to grant wealthy foreigners with an interest in buying Namibian retirement farms permanent residency. Is that your proposition? What is your idea behind this whole thing?
Okay, so let's start. There is Harambee Prosperity. And Harambee Prosperity, one of the projects or one of the initiatives of Harambee Prosperity is a golden visa. Yeah. And a golden visa was also something that was, of course, proposed and recommended by the high-level panel on the Namibian economy. And the one reason why did we propose that one is looking at the economy and the need to inject capital. So the economy needs injection of new capital because you need capital to invest. Many times we say that, of course, we have got, whether it is our MSMEs, whether it is investment, when they come, when you and I have a project, the one thing that we need is money. And most of the time now, the money that we have in Namibia, it's either money that is coming from banks, and it can be quite costly, or it is money that is coming from GIPF, which is pension money, and we know that there is a lot of cash in Namibia, but what we call is like patient capital, and capital that is not risk averse, almost like risk-taking capital. We are missing that capital in Namibia. So that is why we do not have, for example, venture capitalists for people to start business. So we need different type of capital in Namibia. Now, we need to find ways of raising that capital in Namibia. So the golden visa is targeting a few people, but maybe two. Number one, if we are going to diversify this economy, and we are saying our economy currently produces agricultural products, tourism, and then mineral that are exported raw. And we are actually not producing very complex goods. The goods we are producing are not complex. So which then means from a skills point of view, if we are to diversify our economy and we need to produce complex goods, we do not have the R&D and the skills that are required. And therefore, if we need to produce and grow our economy, we need to invite people that have got the skills that we don't have. That is one. And what the skills, the know-how, the R&D. Number two, like I said, patient capital that we do not have, affordable capital that we do not have, a kind of a risk, not so risk-averse capital, people that say, yes, I want a higher return, but of course with the higher return, I am able to invest in venture capital. We don't have that. And therefore, that's why we needed to design a program like a golden visa program. Now, of course, one thing that we need to consider is Namibia, we are no longer in a kind of a village here. This is the globe, and globalization is here. So people that sometimes we don't want, but they want us, they know where to find us. And they come here. And you and I see them every day, and we ask them, how did this person come here, and how are they contributing to our economy? Now we are saying that, yes, let us welcome non-Namibians, but let us welcome those ones on our own terms of saying, we identify the development that we need ABCD, we need capital, we need skills in this one, and therefore let us be deliberate in going out and attracting those people to come in Namibia. And when they come in Namibia, they bring us the capital that we want. So now, that is the program that we are putting together, and it's called the Golden Visa Program. We now have got, of course, a criteria of saying when somebody approaches us, and we are now talking about the golden visa, which is yet to be finalized. But before the golden visa is finalized, there's also people that are now saying, okay, I have identified Namibia as a good country, and I want to take up residence in Namibia. So when those people come, there is allowance in the current laws, immigration laws, for people to come and take up residence in Namibia. So we then evaluate and say, okay, if you come to us and you want to take up residence in Namibia, what will be your contribution? So we have got a criteria of saying, okay, what will you invest? How many are the jobs that you will create? What will be the kind of contribution to treasury? Will you contribute to corporate social responsibility and so on? So we have got that evaluation. And if somebody meets a criteria that we think this person coming to Namibia will add value to Namibia, we go now to Home Affairs and say, here is a person that we believe will add value to Namibia. Can you give this person a permit? We have not written a blanket letter to Home Affairs saying, give categories of people visas. No. We have communicated with Home Affairs in individual cases, because at this stage, we don't have a program yet. That program is to be developed and discussed with Cabinet. Once Cabinet has approved it, it will be marketed. And once it's marketed, individuals will come and we'll talk about it. But in the interim, like we said, like people approach Home Affairs refer them to us to evaluate. People come to us and then we evaluate and we say we believe they will add value to Namibia as investors, whether they are investors driving project, whether they are investors bringing money into Namibia, and then we recommend specific cases. So for example, the cases that you might have seen in the newspaper is maybe 1 or 2 people that are coming, investing in Namibia, looking at capital that they will bring into Namibia, yes, buying a property in Namibia and doing and contributing to the economy, and we write to Home Affairs and say, Home Affairs, we have got this person who is Nangula, this is what the propositioning is, we believe they are good for the Namibian economy, and therefore we are recommending that you give them a work permit or a work visa. That is what we have been communicating with Home Affairs so far.
So the farm is just one element, so they can be investors in other spheres.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have recommended whether it is somebody who is investing in a farm. So somebody has identified a farm and they want to invest certain activities, and then of course we look. What is the value of the investment? How many employment will it create? What is the quality of the employment that you will create? What is the other value that you will add to Namibia? Then we look at that evaluation. Then we write a detailed report and we share it to Home Affairs. And yes, you can come and you say you want to set up a plant manufacturing somewhere. We will look at it and say, what value will you add? So at no point did we go to Home Affairs and say, oh, give visas to rich farmers or to rich foreigners who want to buy farmers. We never said that one. We have advocated for individuals investing in various sectors. Yes, some of them could have been in farm, some of them are in manufacturing, some of them are in various sectors. Individuals that are evaluated on an individual basis, not a grossed up category.
Yeah, I think the farm element is, I think is because of the emotive land issue. We know, for example, Erindi, when that Mexican man was coming here to acquire that land.
Yes.
And he's really a very wealthy man, yes, whom I'm sure is adding value in that area and to the economy of the country. Yeah. But I suppose because the land issue remains unresolved, the idea of land going into foreign hands, I think that is what people seem to have an issue with.
It is, and I agree with that point, and it's something that we have been thinking about, and of course government has deliberating on the outcomes of the land conference, and the outcomes of the land conference, and I think as a nation what we need to do is this one, and we need to come up with a good solution, because I'm a Namibian, and as a Namibian you look at this one and you kind of look at it, okay, we have now dormant farms, because we have got farms in the hands of people who cannot afford to invest, and currently, and some of those funds are in the hands of foreigners. So you've got a farm in the hand of a foreigner or in the hand of Namibian who cannot afford to invest in that land. So now they want to sell it, they give it to government, and government said, okay, we give you a waiver. Because you know that a farm is always given to government. Government said, we give you a waiver, you can sell it. Now they want to sell, they cannot find a buyer. Now there is a foreigner who will be able to invest, employ people, and then the increased economic activities. So the question is, okay, in the interim, do we just let the farm to perish? Have the people that are employed there to lose jobs? Or do we use that land from one foreign hand to another foreign hand to at least contribute to the economy? And I think those are the questions we need to ask ourselves. But then, of course, in the long run, we need to look at this one, because land is a factor of production. So land, of course, it's a factor of production, but we also need it for various reasons as nationals. And I ascribe to that one. We need land for various reasons, and I want to make sure that we get the land that we need. But also, there is land that we need to designate for activities, for economic activities, because without land, we will not be able to have agricultural produces for our own and also to export. And agriculture is one of our priority sectors. So then we say, okay, if it is a foreigner who is coming, under what terms will we be able to do that? So once the law, the policy makers have come up with the answer there, then I think it becomes simple. Then I will know when investors come, I support them and say, okay, you can come to Namibia. Here are the laws of Namibia. And therefore, for example, the case that is being referred to there, it is not actually even somebody who was buying a farm. They were investing in a farm that will still remain in the current hands. So how do we get foreigners to invest without owning the land? And so forth. So, and those are the things that we need to be practical as Namibians, saying it's probably not either or, is how do we get our land and control of our land, but at the same time welcoming foreigners who will help us to develop this factor of production to increase the economic productivity of our countries and create jobs and get rid of poverty. That is the conversations we need to have.
Yeah. Related to that is the issue that was very topical in May this year about the Namibian government resolving to reciprocate this free visa cancellation of the likes of Britain, who have said they had issues with Namibians flooding into their countries because of the visa-free entrance regime that existed. And Namibia said, whoever does that, we will reciprocate the same attitude. That surely must have rolled back some of your efforts as a board, because I'm thinking that there are select countries that you would not have a problem with having their citizens coming here free, visa free, even if they block ours, because the traffic, the identity of people going into both countries is not the same. We have people seeking asylum, wanting to say they are this and that, they are persecuted in Namibia and they want to flee. And you have those who are coming here just really for business and tourism, which benefits our country. So surely you ought to have, what is your attitude on that issue?
So the first thing that we look at, especially as Investment Promotion and Development Board, we need to understand Namibia's foreign policy. And that is one thing. For example, I say I need to study well. Actually, my next course will be international relations, so that I understand exactly. So yes, I have got a high level understanding, but I need to get deeper into it, because foreign policy is the driver of many things. And therefore, yes, as I promote investment, I need to acknowledge that Namibia has got a foreign policy. Namibia has got also politicians who make policy decisions. And as I drive my efforts, I need to make it within that environment. Of course, one of the responsibilities that we have is to drive policy reforms. And policy reform is really to influence decision makers to say, this policy will facilitate investment. This policy will support. But of course, investment is not the only consideration in life. Tourism is not the only consideration in life. So when politicians and policymakers are making a decision, they consider many things. And from my side, I need to appreciate that fact, know when a policy is given to something that I think will make investment easier, and also accept when a decision is made which will make investment more difficult, but it is not impossible. And therefore, looking at that decision, of course, there is the reciprocity, which is part of foreign policy and diplomacy. And there is also a political decision. For example, there is our people that feel like, look, these people come here, they just enter in for free, but to us, you can be us whoever you want. When you enter there, it's almost like you are investigated like nobody else. Is it not time we came to the table and have a conversation about it? And those points are valid. And therefore, if I say, guys, this honorable ministers, this one is easy, and they say, yes, we understand and we accept your point, I need to accept that, I need to respect it, and I need to support. Now the point is, once that decision is made, what does that mean for us as investment promotion agencies, as tourism promotions agencies, and therefore we need to work with Home Affairs and say, okay, how do we implement this in a manner that does not limit people from coming to Namibia, that is friendly, that is customer friendly, that we market it well? How do we collaborate with the embassies of those countries in Namibia, with our foreign missions in those countries, to make sure that we market well and we serve well? And that is where we are focusing our efforts now.
Absolutely. In closing, Nangula, talk to me about the legitimacy of the board, because everybody keeps saying, you know, what is this organization and what is it for? It's just a Hage creation and whatnot.
Yes.
There was an article in Namibian Sun from 3 weeks ago. It says here that Industrialization and Trade Minister Lucia Ipumbu has confirmed that talks to integrate the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board into the ministry are at an advanced stage. Then she goes on to say, she added, the article says, she added that there are those who are against the integration, saying this might influence the final outcome. What is best here? Where do we draw the boundaries between the mandate of the board and that of the ministry? And are there actually efforts to wrestle you from the presidency and bundle you into the Minister of Trade?
Okay, so maybe let's start with the one. So for me, I'm a public servant. I'm just here to serve. And there's policy makers, and I'm not a policy maker. Yeah. So the president was there, and he appointed us, and he put us in place. Of course, another president will come, and they will make a decision, and we are here to serve. I think if you look at later in the Act, and what is there globally, Investment Promotion Agency, there is nobody who is questioning the autonomy and the existence of having an investment promotion agency. There is no question about that one. And therefore, NIPDB as a created entity or established entity, it is there. That mandate is not going to go anyway, and it will be delivered. So I think there is no question on that one. Now, the question that you will have is, okay, where do you report to? And that is with, let's talk about state-owned enterprises. So you have got NAMPower. NAMPower reports to the Ministry of Finance as a commercial entity, and they've got a sectoral minister, which is the Ministry of Mines and Energy. And you remember when PEGA was coming, because all the respective SOEs were reporting to, for example, sectoral ministries, and now they must come to the Ministry of Finance. And you've got the Bank of Namibia, where you've got a governor appointed by the bank, and they report to Ministry of Finance. So an entity like NIPDB reporting to a ministry or something, it is not strange. The decision rests with the decision of the president, who then will decide, okay, do I want this close to me in State House, or do I want it reporting to a minister? That is the decision, and I think it's for us to respect that decision. What is important for us is to make sure that we are efficient in our service delivery, and we have got the access to the person to whom the top level of ministries report to. Why? So I told you that what we do is coordinate the ecosystem. If we want to look at investors and say investments are here to help us in responding to the challenges that are facing the country. So they are part of our development agenda. So if they are part of our development agenda and they are responding there, and we now want to have projects that are supported by Ministry of Mines and Energy, Ministry of Agriculture, Home Affairs, Competition Commission, Ministry of Industrialization and Trade, Ministry of Finance. So every ministry rendered services to investors. And I think what the president then said is, for me, I want somebody who's in my office who tells me how is everybody rendering services to investors. If we want to fast track investments and we want to make sure that we are responsive and we use this lever to grow the economy and to overcome the challenges that are facing us, I need that person to be close to us, to me, so that when there are constraints that need to be removed, me as the person with authority over ministers and so on, I will say, Minister so and so, why are we not developing investments in this sector. Minister so-and-so, why are we not finalizing the responses to this to these investment and sectors and holding productivity task forces that are cross sectors? So I think countries such as Rwanda, which created the Rwanda Development Board, countries such as Ghana, who created the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, and also even in Angola recently, they are also moving to the Office of the President. In other countries like Morocco, an institution like ours, the chairperson is actually the head of government. They have all realized the need for investment and the need to put the agency that is responsible for investment in the Office of the President. That decision rests with the President, of course, his cabinet, and whatever decision they make, of course, it's for us to serve and to respect that decision. What is important is to make sure that we are efficient, and it's to make sure that we have got systems through which we can escalate the challenges and the constraints that we are finding in the system so that they can be promptly resolved, so that whoever we report to should be able to direct the next person. If you now have to go through many hurdles, so here is the person, you report to this one goes to this one, and you get there, how many years later you get to the person who is going to direct, I think that will bring a dent in the progress that we have made, and therefore resolving challenges that are facing investments and converting investment projects in the pipeline to actual investment that are creating jobs can be a challenge. But of course, like I said, that is the decision for the policymaker and especially the appointing authorities to make, and it's a decision that we are here to respect. What is important, there is a mandate that is universal, and we are excited to be at this institution and be the custodian of this mandate for Namibia.
Absolutely. Nangula, I could speak to you the whole day if I could, but our time ends here. Thank you for coming through.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. That is Nangula Uaandja. She is the CEO of the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board, speaking to us about the mandate of that institution and what has been going on there. Thank you for watching.